Standing and joining me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're getting started just a minute or two late. Tonight, I'd like the record to reflect that the city administrator hid my file when I was visiting with him earlier.
Among other things.
So it's all his fault. That's really what I'm saying. Call the meeting to order. Council, any issues with the agenda? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Or nays? Anyone wishing to vote nay? Go ahead. Motion's approved. With regard to the consent agenda, anyone have any questions or comments about the minutes or the other two items that you want to ask questions about or address? None? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Unanimous. Matters on the agenda tonight that conceivably we could take action on are the Locust Street Bridge Contractor Award. Mr. Deerdoff with regard to hiring Mr. Deerdoff and League of Municipalities with regard to a city administrator search, possible purchase of a vehicle for public works, possible action on recognition of employees at the holiday season. Anyone has any comments on any of those, feel free to come up to the microphone. Seeing no one, we'll move on. Mark, can we go to you and Darren with regard to the Locust Street Bridge project?
Sure. Darren's here. We opened bid today at 3 o'clock, and Darren's here to make a presentation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, as Mark said, we opened bids this afternoon at 3 o'clock. We had 3 bidders on this project. They were both Parga out of Mound Ridge, Multi-Creed out of Wichita, and Heck Construction here out of Marion. You can see the base bid numbers there. Base bid, both Parga was the low on both the base bid and the combination of base bid add alternate. $290,000 was their base bid price, $33,712.50. We're not releasing the bid tabs until after you guys award, but basically, and that's the way we've been doing them all lately in case we have to rebid for any reason. We're not exposing anybody's line items. In letting you know, the grant amount for this one was $232. So we're about $58,000 higher than that grant agreement. Now we've already discussed with both Parga this afternoon. I had a meeting with them after the bid opening to look at alternative ways to get some of that pricing down, and there are ways within that to remove some of that pricing and get it closer. I also discussed with city staff, and basically our recommendation today is that we don't award this until 1 month from now. That way city staff can look at which year they want it to come in on the budget piece or your audit, how that stacks up on your local dollars. And also we can figure out how much we can trim versus, where we can be at on the whole budget piece, so.
And the contractor's fine with that.
Yeah, the contractor was fine with that. We build a clause into all of our contracts that when we bid out a project like this, there's 60 days from bid opening to you guys have to award before the prices are null and void. So we would be well within that 60 days. So, but I fully believe that off that 290, we can probably pretty easily cut at least 30 off of that, just right off the top. by changing. We always, as I've told you in the past, well, maybe not everybody, since some councilors knew, but what we do with our contracts is we build in contingency quantities to our contracts on purpose, so that, like in this case, there might be 1,000 foot of curb and gutters, maybe what we bid, knowingly that we only have measured out 962 feet. And so we always leave a little bit of slush there. Well, between now and next month, I'll figure out more of these quantities more exact. And a couple of the other things, like we had a lump sum to do tree removal. Well, if we go look at those trees conjunctively with the contractor, and their bid price might have been 18,000 to remove these 4 big trees. Maybe now that they look at it a little closer and we talk about it on site, maybe there's ways, okay, they say, oh yeah, we can do that probably for 14. So there's ways within that to maybe trim some cost out of a couple of those line items. So we'll have a better idea by that time then too on that part.
Questions for Mr. Neufeld?
So that 232, that was your engineer estimate?
That was the
And that's- since
engineer
that's what
estimate we
submitted.
submitted on the grant proposal.
And can you remind me, did we do 70-30?
70-30, right.
So,
The
Out of
grant, the grant amount, I believe, is 162,890, I think. Do that math real quick and see if.
yeah, 162, excuse me, 400.
I think, when I looked back on the grant application earlier today, I'm pretty sure it was 162,890 is what we're getting from KDOT.
So then, anything above and beyond that, that additional 58,000,
It would be 100% on the
58.7 is
city.
100% on us then,
Correct,
right?
yes. And that's why I think there's ways to cut back on that. Just with the contingency quantities, I'll have you a better number by next
Right.
month and know what kind of dollars we can save.
And then can you remind me what adult one?
Okay, so the base bid project was to do both the Elm Street culvert system, which is right there between the old Leland Heiderich property and my office. There's that drainage way that comes down through there. We're replacing that culvert that goes under Elm Street. That's on the base bid. And then fixing the head wall system up on Locust Street, that whole west side of that street, and the inlet and the wall piece is on that base bid. Which also includes putting up a pedestrian, that concrete wall that's there now would be gone, and we'd put back a metal railing system up there on that curb, basically. So people walking along, driving along, don't just, fall right off in the creek. All of that's on the base bid, and then the curb and gutter work, where the lake sits right now in front of our office. All of that curb and gutter starting there all the way up past the Christian church. There's one new section in there that we would not do. So that side, and then on the other side, there's a section that we did a couple of years ago that's from the Main Street corner on the west side of Elm that goes up and includes Miss Betty's lower driveway. But then this curb and gutter goes from starting where we replaced before on up to the west side of Elm Street, up to Lawrence. All of that's in the base bid. The add alternate is the curb work over on Locust, going from that box redo both directions.
You make me laugh with the reference to Miss Betty.
I have to, everybody's gonna know when I say that.
Do you know Amy? You do? Okay, good.
Oh, yeah, she
Yeah.
didn't have to deal with her driving capabilities, because by the time Smiths moved in, Miss Betty wasn't driving anymore, but.
I think she was,
Oh, she
right
was
when we
she?
moved
Oh,
in,
okay.
'cause,
You
yeah,
you
I
do
was
realize
tailed one
that
time.
this is a public meeting. and
I know,
this-
no, all good things.
If
all
Miss
good
Betty's
things.
listening, I apologize, ma'am.
Sounds like an episode of Fried Green Tomatoes or something with the Miss Betty.
But I knew everybody up here would
I knew
realize
exactly
where that
who you were
driveway
talking
was.
about.
Is
The
there,
first driveway on the west, no, just Miss Betty's.
is there any curb and gutter on Locust in the base bid? Like right there where
Just
the width of
the,
the box?
I'm gonna say 85 to 90 feet, so roughly 50 feet either side of the box.
Okay.
Is included in the base bid. Now, we might, probably won't change the curb and gutter, but that railing, we might, to save a little funds, we could, from, instead of 85 feet, which is exactly what that concrete wall is now. That's why we started out with 85 feet. Is there a reason to be that long? Maybe there's not much of a drop off yet right behind that, and we can cut that to 70 feet or something and still create a safe environment. So that's what we'll take a look at, and we'd still probably keep the curb at that 85 or 90 feet, because it does need to be replaced for sure in that length, but we can shorten up the new wall and the railing.
I'm curious as to, obviously you can ask any question you want, but with your question about do you feel like the guttering, I mean, the curbing along that is needing attention?
At
or-
Locust, you mean?
Yeah.
No, I was just curious what, because of where that drainage comes in, how much in the base bid was included in
Yeah,
that?
because
just with how it
there's
all
a
ties
dip, you know,
together.
there's that bad dip
Yeah.
there, and both the curb is settled, so we have to replace
Right.
that section of curb, because it's settled out and it's got a belly in
Yeah.
it,
I
as
haven't
well as the
looked-
street.
I don't know
Yeah, okay.
off the top of my head.
The
how most
curbing
of
on the
it
rest of Locust, if you compare it to the rest of curbing in town, I'm gonna say is less than average compared to most of the other average curbing in town. Is it falling apart like the Elm Street curb? No. Elm Street curb, we found this when we did the first section a couple of years ago, and the rest of Elm Street is this way, and probably on up Elm Street, almost all the way past your place, and maybe even as far as yours. That was all limestone chips with a 1-inch concrete skim coat. So that curb and gutter really is only 1-inch thick concrete over limestone chips. And that's why, if it's from Miss Betty's other driveway, if you want to get a reference, there's a hole there, just below her one driveway that is now about 5 feet long and the width of the gutter, where over time that concrete was gone, and so now every time we get a big rain coming down that big hill, it washes more chips out of there. So that hole just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Are you talking up to where her mailbox is, and then there's that strip of concrete that everybody kind of uses as a sidewalk to cross? What is that right there? You know what
Oh,
I mean?
that's an old water line patch.
Oh, okay, because everybody kind of uses it as
Yeah.
a crosswalk.
No, yeah, they do, but that's a water line patch from years and years and years ago.
Okay.
My only other question, I guess, and I think you've done this in the past, but anywhere that they're taking up Brick Street, they're going back with brick.
That's correct.
right?
We have a line item in here for remove and reset brick. The only thing we're not sure of is right where the tube is on Elm Street. We've had to patch with asphalt, and we're hoping we can get those bricks cleaned.
Good.
If we can't, we no longer have a city stockpile of brick. So we might have to look at some alternatives for that brick. But we've got a couple other spots. There's 2 more closer to Main Street in Elm Street where there's a depression. And most likely when you line stuff up, it's because the sewer line, something with the sewer main, has settled out a little bit. And so we actually have on with this project to go to those areas, and some of them are about the size of this table, to actually remove and reset the brick in several other locations this size. Once again, that could be something that we could pull out of the contract if we needed to get down to a dollar amount. But yes, where those new tubes are going in or up on Locust Street, the intent is to put the brick back.
Yeah, okay.
So when you said like you were looking at the contingencies and maybe, does that just then go back to vote as the low bid that gets the chance to adjust, or how does?
No, see, we're not adjusting unit prices. All we're saying, so like, for
like if they
example,
bid it so much
so
for-
for example, if I were to pull 100 lineal feet of curb off of votes, yes, I would take a look to make sure that didn't make, if we pulled the same 100 off of Het, that he didn't become low bidder.
Okay.
I mean, looking ahead though at the pricing on line items like curb and gutter, which is where the main bulk of the contingency was at. Het's curb price and Vote's curb price were almost identical. So even if I pulled 500 feet off, it would not make a lot of difference.
Okay,
right?
gotcha, okay,
But yes, we will take that into consideration, yes.
okay.
Anything, Tim? No. Okay. So Darren, am I correct that this is basically being?
This is for informational purposes tonight only, and so you can take a look at it and ask whatever questions we wanted to, but just for financial purposes, we're gonna hold off on the award until January 6th.
Correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Not a problem. If you've got any other questions, feel free to ask via staff to us.
What was the timeline for getting that done?
We just said it had to be done by next summer, completed, and, I look at all three of them now, I'm trying to remember. I believe Davey had said he would start February 1st, and we've given him 90 working days to complete, or up to. And I'm pretty sure Boats Park has said as weather permits. In other words, they don't want to start when the snow is still flying, so it kind of depends on what we get into February, March looks like. So I would anticipate probably a mid-February, mid-March type start. And that's what we've recommended to them, so, because what we don't want to do is be sitting here in mid-May, 1st of June, and get those big rains again when we got that stuff open. We want to get those tubes in there, the new stuff in there before we potentially see those bigger events. So what I've talked to them both about, or I talked to all of them, all of these companies came and talked to us during bidding to go over some things. And I made the recommendation to do the tubes and the locust head wall piece first. And then we can move to curb and gutter. Because curb and gutter will be a little more manageable to, oh, hey, there's rain in the forecast 3 days from now. We can play around with that a little better, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark?
Our next item, John Deerdahl's here to talk about the city administrator search.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Good to be
Good
back
evening.
with you again. First of all, I appreciate you all filling out your surveys, and I'm not quite sure I'm used to the survey yet, but I don't know if it helped you guys or not, but the idea of it is to really begin to develop the profile, you know, what requirements you're looking for in your new administrator and some of the characteristics that you want to see there. And so I thought we might just run through that real quick, and we can kind of get through this, and then what'll happen after tonight, once we come to some agreement, that we'll put together the community profile, which is a nice document about your community, and then obviously the job ad, which is what's placed in all the publications, is specifically what you're looking for, you know, benefits, salary, those kinds of things. So one of the first things was the years of experience, and I think most of you, or there were 5 that listed 0 to 4. Am I correct there? And there was 1 that had 5 to 9. So the consensus appeared to be somebody with experience, you know, 0 or 1 to 4 years of experience. And we can just talk about each one of these as we go through it, and if anybody has any issues with that, you know, we can certainly talk about that. So,
Only speaking for myself, I think I was trying to be realistic here. I want to get a city administrator hired, you know, yeah, I'd love to have somebody with 15 years' experience that's, you know, leaving Overland Park to come here, but I think realistically, we're gonna have to look for someone that's younger in the profession, so that's.
well, it opens a range too,
Yeah.
of candidates that are looking to, and you may get what you said, that 15 years, or you may get 2 years, and, you know, that'll help with the pool, I think, too, so. The next one was education, and basically, you know, we talked about bachelor's degree in public administration or related field. When we say related field, you know, it could be a business degree, a finance degree, there's a lot of things that relate to that. And 3 of you had required and 3 had preferred, and we talked about master's in public administration. There was 1 that preferred that, and typically what we've seen is, or what we've used in the past is, you know, a bachelor's degree in public administration or related field in an MPA is preferred. But that doesn't disqualify a candidate that doesn't have the MPA, and there may be candidates that are currently working on that, you know, online or MPA for a deal, so. What, are you all comfortable with that then? Yeah. Okay. Then, the other thing I want to talk about, yeah, I'm glad I saw that. Can experience be substituted for education? And that's an important thing here. And that really has come into play in some searches I've been involved with, in that, you know, there are candidates that may not have the education, but, you know, they've been a public works director, you know, city engineer, or whatever you might have, with a lot of experience in city government. And sometimes those turn out pretty well. We hired one in, I think it was in Mound Ridge, had a public works director there. I like, and it's up to you all, but I kind of like that experience can be substituted for education, but again, that's your call, and that would be important, because if it's strictly education is one of the levels you have, then I'm not gonna apply if I don't have that. I've been a public works director in so-and-so city for the last 15 years. I know a lot about cities. In some cities, the public works director, because they don't have an administrator manager, is, quote, the administrator. So do you want to leave in the experience can be substituted for education?
I would
Yeah.
think so.
Is that all right? Okay. Okay, then a couple other things. On the characteristics profile, and this will be something that will come into play when we put this job advertisement together, so that we can let the candidates know specifically what you're all looking for, specifically. And of course, budgeting was number one. I think everybody had that listed or checked that in your priorities. Economic development was the next highest, and then kind of all of these pretty much had 5 of you: grant writing, strategic planning, team-oriented, reliable, work ethic, professional, and approachable. And those were all 5 votes or more for that list of characteristics or on the profile. So, it's kind of important, I think, to list those things, because I know as candidates, if budgeting and finance is really an important thing to you, and, that's not really my strong suit, kind of like Mark, it's not really, that's actually his strong suit probably, so. Yeah. So, they may say, well, they're looking for somebody different there, but, so I think it's important to have in there, kind of those 4 or 5 or 6 specific things that you all are looking for in your next city administrator, their skill requirements. And again, once we bring this all back, you'll get to see a final review of what this job profile looks like, what the job advertisement looks like, and you'll be able to amend it or change it and have all that opportunity before we start putting it out on the street. So, and then just to comment a couple things on the local issues, and these I think are important for candidates to know, economy, business climate, housing, affordable housing. That seems to be an issue in every community in the state of Kansas. And then, there are a few other comments there as well. Biggest challenges facing your community, housing, economic development, kind of divided into support existing business as well as attract new business, and then infrastructure and equipment needs, which also is a pretty common theme in a lot of communities. So, so I guess I really just kind of want to open it up and see if there's anything we missed. Again, as I said earlier, you'll have an opportunity to kind of review all of these. Once you see it all put together, I think it's going to be a little easier for you to kind of look at it and say, I don't know if I like the way that reads, but we can certainly play that. So,
John, unless I just blinked out for a minute, you skipped the part with regard to who is responsible
Yeah.
for a certain thing. Did you do that on purpose?
I did,
Okay.
and I tell you why I did that. And I've talked to the league about it. I'm not sure how relevant that is. I mean, and you guys, I was going to ask for your feedback on that, because usually when I look at it, the city charter pretty much lays out, whose responsibility is this and whose is that. Not always the case, but and so I kind of skipped over that. But if you want to, or I did skip over that. Is there something on there that you wanted to comment on? I just don't know how valuable that is to the actual search and the profile development piece.
I thought it was good in
Okay.
terms of when we get a person or persons that we're interviewing, it might be good to see what their feeling on some of these topics are versus ours. As I looked at it,
Okay.
and I just saw this today, it looks like for the most part, everyone here was fairly similar on most of these things.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
we can find some consensus there, but if, just the very first one, hiring and firing of city personnel, if somebody said, well, if I'm gonna be the administrator, I'm not taking the hit on that, the council has to do it all. Well, be good to know that.
Yeah, no, you make a good point there, and I think that is interesting, because I spent a little time on that today. He talked about like the hiring and firing, and of course, 7 people had the city administrator and 6 the governing body, and the governing body probably only hires, I'm not sure how it works here. Is it just the one employee?
There's a couple.
There's a couple, yeah. Okay, and that's typically what it is in some administrative form of government, so. Is there anything there that you think we need to talk about in terms of that, get people straight on exactly where the responsibilities lie?
Is there anything here that any of you see that you thought was just absolutely, it should be A, and it looks like most of us thought it was B or C that you want to address? Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I think it's good to have that, and I really was kind of wanting some feedback in terms of how important that particular question is on the survey, and that you all would fill out, and I was going to talk with Nikki about that, and if it's of some value, then, because the league's used that for some time. It wasn't something I used before I started with them, but
I
I'm
just
just
thought it
curious.
was going to be helpful when we either are interviewing someone or after they're interviewed and hired, to say, okay, now let's make sure we're all on the same page. And here's
Well,
a bunch of good categories here.
That's a good point, and that's something we can hang on to, and when candidates come through, we can make sure, we're all on the same page, or you are with them, so. Just to kind of, again, what I said, we'll put this all together in a written narrative for you to look at and review and approve, and I think Nikki sent some information to Mark, maybe to give some of the details of the city that we'll need in that, and we'll get that. So, looking at the calendar, I was thinking if we can get this wrapped up, maybe December 16th, which is your next meeting, it's 2 weeks from tonight, that you would be able to review what we've prepared and approve that. And then we can start posting later that week, December 20th. And, maybe look at a resume deadline of, 5 weeks is 5 or 6 weeks. 5 weeks is obviously 35 days, or you want to go 45, about 6 weeks. So we need to talk a little bit about that. And I don't know, time-wise, I don't think you're in any big crunch here, push, that I know of. So I would just be, usually the 5 to 6 week is plenty. You get out longer than that, then you lose a lot of interest in people that see it come out right away. Oh, wow, I'm really interested in that. Well, 6 weeks from now, they've got another job somewhere else, or so. So I'd probably recommend 5 weeks. And, it's happened a couple of times where we've looked at the 5-week window, and boy, coming up to that 5-week window, we just didn't really see what you're looking for, or you didn't. And then we might have to extend that for some reason. I hope we don't have to do that, but that's certainly a possibility, so.
Are you having that 5 weeks fall the week of the 20th or the 27th of?
I was thinking that we'd have it posted by the 20th.
Okay.
So I'm saying starting that, whatever that next Monday is that
The 23rd.
23rd? Yeah. Yeah. So it'd be that week, and then
Okay.
that would be a full week, and then 4 after that.
Okay.
Let's see, what else did I have? Oh, and the other thing,
I'm gonna need to have it posted the 23rd.
I talked about a salary survey, and I haven't got all that information back, but I've gotten probably 4 of the 6 cities that I've asked to provide me with that, with basically, what their salary is, how many employees they have, population, do they provide deferred comp, car allowance, phone allowance, just that whole package, to give you an idea of where kind of people are at, other cities are, and trying to do it within this area, for the most part, similar sized cities, looking at Sterling, Ellsworth, Harrington, Hillsborough, I think that's the 4 I had. So, and I've got some of that salary information with them, but that's something that when you guys approve the profile, the job advertisement, I'll have that survey submitted with that, and then you can decide kind of where you want to start. You know, we've had that conversation about where we think we ought to be in the market, and looking at the survey, I think that's probably going to be where we need to be. But we don't really have to talk about that tonight, because I'd really like you to see that survey, you know, with your own eyes and kind of compare it before we agree on that. We've got a couple weeks to do that, so.
Okay. Questions? Mark, the information you're gonna be sending John, I mean, some of it's just flat, here's the official census population of Marion or whatever. Are we allowed to, I guess, point out some positives in that as well? And where I'm going with it is, I think yes, Marion is whatever it is, 1,900 and something. But with that county lake setting right there, most of those people, I think, feel themselves to be, well, as much a part of this community as they do anywhere else. And there are a lot of people that are full-time, that's their residence out there. And I just feel like that would be good information for a prospective candidate to know that you've got that, and you've got the federal reservoir just on the other side. It also has a population there, it's not nearly as big, and they're kind of equidistant between here and Hillsborough, but nevertheless, the lake's there. So I think it makes it a more attractive place to live.
Yeah, you have a golf course, you have things.
Yeah,
John, do you have a sample you bought?
I had that one from Sterling last time.
Yeah, if you send that to me, I'll try to get that out.
But basically, let's tell our story about, there's a lot of good things going on here. Let's, you know, school districts, you know, the lakes, the recreation. And so it's probably typically a 4 or 5 page document.
Okay, good. All right,
4 or
good.
5 page document that the
Excellent.
candidate will get. But what we've actually put in the advertisements will only be, you know, the paragraph, if you know what I mean. So, yeah.
Got a golf course that humbled Mark McInerney, apparently.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's
Well,
not saying much.
And we need good pictures too, and that's the other thing, we always wanna make sure we get some good pictures from here, and I think you can help us with that, but, and probably not of him swinging the club, so.
Please send me play golf.
But that'll be something you'll get a review and what have you before we get it all put together, so.
Excellent. So we should look forward to seeing you
Yep.
December 16th?
Yep, and I'll get it back to you, if something comes up, because that's your last meeting in December, right?
Unless,
So,
we'll talk next week, if there's anything to
Okay.
adjourn prior to the end of the year, we don't know yet.
okay, well, I'm gonna talk with Nikki, and we're gonna work pretty hard on meeting that deadline.
You might
So,
mention, I think there's a KACM meeting coming up in the near future,
Yeah,
so John will be, are you going to that?
yeah, I'm gonna
You'll
be
able to
there
interact with a lot of
Thursday,
people.
Friday. I got my little note to potential candidates already, so. I've already started thinking about that, but that's the fun part of it, is to get a hold of people and say, hey, yeah, take a look at this, so.
I appreciate that, because
Yeah.
that's the way I do business, is that kind of little note.
Yeah.
Everyone else I'm dealing with anymore has their phone and they look for their notes.
Well, I'm not that guy, so, yeah. Okay, well, great. Mayor,
Thank you.
council, thank you again, and if there's any questions that you all have through Mark or whoever, just be sure and let me know, okay? Because my big goal here through this whole process is to communicate as the process goes on, how we're doing, and go from there so you know what's going on, so.
Great,
Okay?
kind of exciting.
Hey, you guys have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we go back to you, Mark.
Yeah, then on the public works vehicle purchase, I'd like to postpone that for 2 weeks. Due to the holiday, then I will gone a little bit. I just haven't got that research like I want to.
Anyone have an issue with that? Okay, we'll just roll it over to the next agenda. And then we're back to you again.
It's my understanding over the years that the year-end, you acknowledged employees for the year, and it kept, for lack of a better word, kind of gave a seasonal adjustment or whatever at the end of the year. I've been told it's been $100. you try to make it 100, so you budget a little bit more for their final paycheck of the year. And I've inquired if that's something you want to do again this year.
Well, we talked about it at the work session. No one really indicated any objection to it at that time. I think it's a good idea. If you look at the total number of employees and the amount that we're talking about, it's not, in terms of the total, it's not that huge an amount. But if you're, $100 is $100. And I think that we have people that are working hard and trying hard that have been kind of beat down, and I think are on an upward path, and I would like to acknowledge that.
I agree.
So I'll make a motion that we do a seasonal holiday employee recognition salary adjustment.
Jeez, that's a mouthful.
Wow.
Call it whatever you want.
Maybe we abbreviate.
I would move that we give a cash award to each of our employees in an amount that, after withholding, would be roughly $100 each.
And that would be full-time employees, or?
That's a good question. How many part-time do we have?
Well, how technical do you want to get? Do you want to include the fire department? Do you want to
Right.
include the
Well, those are,
library?
technically, those are volunteer people. The library has its own budget and system. Let's just talk about people that basically operate out of this building.
Do you have any part-timers right now?
No.
Okay, so we don't have any.
Full-time, okay.
And I said out of this building, I would include police department as that.
Public Works.
Yeah, okay. Okay, did we vote on this? I'm
You
sorry.
made a
made a
motion.
Motion, did anyone second my motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion and second, now discussion.
Sorry, jumped the gun there.
That's okay. No discussion, then all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it unanimously. Public forum. Anyone wish to speak to the city council about any topic on your mind? You know, Mike, this will be the third time in a row we can sell you a package that would, rather than paying each time, you can purchase a year's right to speak, and it'll be a lot cheaper for you.
Well, I'll give that some thought.
Okay, you do that.
I had the luxury of getting with Gary Deatonbrock and got the okay to put his cross monument there at the edge of Lincolnville on our tourist map. We was told that, Tammy Enzi said, well, 25 was already done, 26 will be done later this year, but we could possibly get it on their website. Referred me to Margot. I think she's got that on there with some pictures. And if we want to make some changes in the future, I think we can do whatever we need to or add something to it as he adds to that. And I'd just like to acknowledge her getting that done for us.
Thanks, Mike.
And to think that, I don't know how many doubles there are on these magnets that it talks about that he's given out. They've been through 3,500 of them in a year's time.
No, I don't know what you're talking about now. What's this?
Mile north of Lincolnville on the west side.
Well, I know that, but what
It's
magnets?
that giant cross. If
I
you go
know.
up- Well, he has a mailbox, and if you open it up, he gives out. like
There's
little
refrigerator
pamphlets.
magnets
Oh,
with
okay.
pictures. They've got
Okay.
one with the northern lights and the purple tint that's just, and some sunsets that they've taken randomly. And it is hard to believe that, I guess his intention was maybe he was gonna try to make a little monument and be buried in that area or something. And the people that you see stop there constantly, I mean, it's just amazing. And to give out 3,500 magnets already in a year's time,
Yeah.
maybe
that's a
one of
lot.
our biggest tourist stops within our county or in the area. And just wanted to, Margot took it upon herself, was just asking her to do that or continue that. And I guess she got Gary's permission too, or got to talk to him. I think he's good with it. And who'd ever thought something so minute turned into something And we won't talk about the dollars he's got invested in that, but it's, a couple of them marble statues were, between the two of them, it's like 150 or 60,000, made in Italy and shipped over here. There's,
Yikes.
what, several hundred yards of concrete holding them things up. That pipe that it's made out of is 1/2-inch wall stuff that they've put together in their shop. It's been quite the project, and we're trying to get lighting over there, which, trying to cross the railroad tracks has been an issue or a hindrance. But again, I think it's something that it gets talked about throughout the state. People stop constantly, they'll be kneeling there and just, the only thing he hasn't let me do is put a sign on the mailbox, mail your letters to heaven here. I think it would be very intriguing of what we might get in that deal, but we'll see. And I think Gary's appreciative too, so just thought I'd let you know.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Meyer?
A rare time when I will come up and say something, but somewhere in my misspent middle age, I ran a website that was one of the first places that got online applicants for jobs. And I will tell you, if I were you, I would delay that December 20th. There's two things about online ads for jobs. People like to look at the most recent ads, and the period from Christmas to New Year's is the deadest time in the world. So I might recommend you delay it till January 1st. I think you'd get a better response rate.
That,
It is a busy time.
that does make sense,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, if it's being posted on the 20th, it's Christmas time, and
But that'd be the first week of Christmas.
Well, when John comes,
I'll let him know.
yeah, I mean, we can talk about it, I guess, if there's any disagreement, but it just makes, it's logical.
Yep.
Thank you. And you stay within your time period.
4 minutes and 23 seconds left.
Yeah, no, Mike, you can't have any of Eric's time. Let's go department heads and counselor reports. Start back in the corner with you, Margaret.
Yeah, I've got the microphone, I guess. We had a really great holly jolly Christmas. It was a good one. We appreciate everybody that helped make it happen, everybody that came out and participated and shopped and in the parade. And I mean, it took a lot of people to make all that happen. Jean was involved, and Zach and Kevin was in the parade, and I don't know who I'm forgetting, but it was great. The vendors upstairs, normally it would kind of start dying off about 2 o'clock, you know, and we go till 3. Not this year. There were people still coming in at 3 o'clock, and it was just, I was very pleased with the whole thing. I haven't heard anything bad, and everybody had fun, and yeah, so we'll do it again, year number 6 next year. So.
Cool.
it was great.
Yeah, it's a good deal.
It was a
Thank
good
you.
time.
Stephen? Stephen passes. I did that in law school a lot. You say pass and then just move on down. Go ahead, James.
I don't have anything tonight.
Zach? Nope. Nobody? Thank you. You can turn that off, James. Mark?
I'd just like to thank the public works staff and the water plant in particular. As you know, they repainted the rehab the tower, and it was down for about 60 days, and it's a lot of work, and it turned out to be a good project, and it's back live. They passed all the certification tests from KDHE, so they did a good job. So I think everybody likes the way it looks, and
I think it
was
looks
a good,
great.
good project.
It does look really nice.
Thank you. Janet?
No.
Amy?
Mine's kind of silly, but they had a little petting zoo at the library, and actually, Phyllis, I was talking to you there. A lot of people inquired about having goats in the community. So, I know, but I actually looked into it, in Wichita, Lawrence, Olathe, Kansas City, Topeka, Dodge City, they allow goats in communities, and I thought I'd bring it up. I mean, I'd rather listen to a goat once in a while than a dog. Half these dogs, you know, that are barking nonstop in neighborhoods. I like dogs, but they use them for,
So
in
the people
Wichita, they use them to go clean out parks where they have poison ivy and I mean, they have like a limit, I believe like 2, you have to have them secured. It's kind of, I thought I'd bring it up for them. They were adorable. I don't want one, but they're cute. I can see it.
All of the places you mentioned are metropolitan areas for the most part.
Yeah.
I think most people around here that want goats live in the country where they can have goats, but I'm not saying I know, but I'd need somebody to come up with a specific proposal that I could discuss, think about.
Yeah.
Because currently, I believe it just says no farm animals, and no livestock,
Right.
in a sense, except for maybe chickens. What's the deal on the chickens? How many? Chickens are allowed.
You can have chickens.
I think
But-
chickens
but
are.
no
in
roosters.
roosters. But people have, I know people in
Raises
town
feathers
have
about their
house
spouse.
pigs.
There must be some chickens in our area that can cock-a-doodle-doo then, because
Well, you know,
I mean,
you have a
goat-
bunch of
they-
hens and it attracts roosters. I don't know.
at least I'm not the only one that's heard that.
Or when the goat's standing on top of your $100,000 vehicle.
I don't want to go. I just said I would mention it. I mean, they're cute. Some of them are little. You know, I don't know.
Sitting on top of my pickup.
That's fine. No, I don't mean to ridicule.
No, you're not. No, I just, it's a thought, I guess.
Zach?
I just wanted to give a shout out to Stephen and the electric crew. I think the Christmas lights looked really nice downtown, and that Christmas, what's now the Christmas tree in the park looks really good. So I know that takes a lot of time to keep those lights up and functioning and get them back up and functioning before we turn them back on. It looks really nice, so thank you.
Since you,
My 5-year-old also commented, she said it looked really good, but she thought it looked better last year. She's 5. So, I said I'd pass that along.
since you said that, it reminds me, I want to just give Stephen a shout out because I think my experience with him recently has been he's been proactive about things. Not just, there's a problem, we need to solve it as opposed to wait till it becomes a crisis, but also just in having ideas, just saying, hey, we did this, we could do that, and I just salute. Is that it for you?
Yeah.
I just wanted to, and this was brought up, over a year ago, but from what I hear about the use of the pickleball courts at the school facility for winter leagues and stuff, it's crazy popular. And we really need to have outdoor pickleball courts. And I know you worked on that, Roger Hannaford brought it up, but I just want to, I don't have anything real to say other than I don't want that to fall off the radar.
We've had a gentleman down to look at it. They were busy. And I can bring it back, we'd have to decide exactly what you want to do.
Yeah.
We looked at the tennis courts over by the rec center.
Yeah.
And would you take one out? There's all kinds of options. We'll probably put that on a future meeting to talk about. And this guy puts them in all over the Midwest. They're really good out of Wichita.
Can't hear a thing you're saying.
Maybe that's good.
You don't want to say it anymore. In Council Grove term, it's tennis and pickleball courts on theirs. So it looks really nice.
Oh, so it's dual use.
So it's something to think about.
I think, Kevin, did you look into that too?
Yeah, and
I
what
thought
we
you
looked
did.
at, because Mark and I met with, he had a gentleman that came, what was the name of the company? Out of Wichita?
Midwest.
Courts or something
Daryl
like that.
Snyder's his
So
name.
he
He'd
came
done
down
it.
and met with us, and we went to the
Yeah.
ones at the East Park, and you can't really have a dual use. I mean, what we looked at was getting rid of one tennis court, and I think we figured we could get 3 pickleball courts in there and still leave 1 tennis court.
I like the
there.
idea of leaving
Yeah,
a
because
tennis court.
I don't know that you would really, I really think you could actually get 4 pickleball courts across the 1 tennis court and still leave a tennis court, because, I don't know that we would need more than that. Then we actually even went and looked in the back of the park back there, but I don't think that was where the basketball court and stuff is. That didn't seem as viable as what the ones up at the East Park did, so. So yeah, maybe we can get back a hold of that guy and see if he came up with some dollar figures and.
He did a bunch of pickleball courts in Emporia, and he's in Nebraska, he's all over. And,
Cause
really
I
did
went
fine
and
work.
looked at, I think it was at Clay Center and Wamego that had done the same thing, had taken out
Yeah.
like an existing pickleball court, or existing tennis court and converted them into, and then they still left a tennis court or whatever there as well, so. But yeah, we can get back on that, cause I think there's 32 teams in that rec pickleball.
Wow.
The schools go over there and use it, different, it's always busy.
Yeah, it's fun.
Also, and this is again just Mark, we've got some streets, and I'm thinking specifically of Coble.
Yeah.
And I know you know, that has, between the two building projects, the original 4 or 5 houses and then the most recent 4, gotten pretty beat up. And I definitely agree that it would have been silly to have put a lot of money into fixing up a street only to have another immediate project. But I just want to, I would like the council to have some input in prioritizing streets. I mean, I get it, we need our staff's involvement and ideas as well as the engineer, but I really would like the council to at least be involved in the
Right.
discussion of that.
And my understanding, I think you used Darren before to help you do that.
Yeah,
Darren
that's
and
my
Public Works
understanding
work
as well.
together. I'll get with both of them.
We just ought to review the entire capital improvement plan
I would love to do that.
to include, I mean, that would include more than just the streets, but the streets would be a part of it.
That could be a study session unto itself, I think, just doing that. That might be something to
Yeah.
keep in mind. Oh, okay, that's it for me. Sir?
Don't really have anything any different, just to reiterate, like Zach said about the Christmas decorations, and I know there's a lot of people involved in the Holly Jolly thing, but I think Margot has a tremendous amount to do with that, or at least getting the ball rolling anyway, so. I think you guys did a good job. I thought it was a good turnout. It seemed like a lot of people down. It's kinda hard to see when the lights were all out downtown, but it seemed like a lot of people.
We go back and forth on that.
No, I thought it seemed good. Everybody I talked to had a good time and had a good experience, so thank you.
I just didn't think they turned the lights on back kinda as the parade was done downtown, and had a lot of kids running around. Some of the parade participants coming back through, and it was dark. Caused a safety issue.
Well, Tim always takes his brood down there hoping they'll lose one.
We weren't there this year, we're out of town.
Tim?
The one thing I was gonna mention tonight, take advantage a little bit of our social online opportunity here. The Marion Advancement Campaign is having a Giving Tuesday, which is tomorrow, and so this will probably be aired on YouTube here tomorrow. So anyone that is listening, if you do want to do any sort of charitable donations for the Marion Advancement Campaign, they have 6 different causes within the community and local communities. And at the end of the meeting, I think Jean is going to post the website for those that are interested in that, and as well as all 3 of the local banks have information about that too. So just if anyone wants to look into something like that, I just thought I'd mention that it's available and it's happening tomorrow. And there's like $20,000 worth of matching funds, so it's kind of neat to see what projects they have and see if there's something anyone's interested in. So.
Anyone have anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
I'll second that.
Motion and second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
We'll see you December 16. Thank you.
He's cool down there today. Cold Joe.
I feel like I should get a little cooler, stick it under the desk.
Well, I got one under
I don't know how long.
I can haul it down here when I can.
It doesn't normally. It's gonna be open for 5 weeks at this point about.
Oh, okay.
Seeing like some more recent ones.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Thank you, Janet.
You're welcome.
I'll,
I'm just gonna
Janet.
leave it down here.
yeah,
I've
but
had
it'll
this
be.
for like
Yeah.
2 months.
All right.
That list of
I'm sure they'll still take money.
Yeah.
I'll tell them, hey, just be watching for more money on Wednesday.
the net you cast, the better.
Here's the paperwork, Janet. You want the signed paperwork? Yeah. Thanks, Tim.
About walked out without them. Appreciate that.
Like what? Like how much? Yeah. I knew you'd done that.